Hi guys, this is a brief lesson I'm going to deliver for you on how to read a framing square or a pivotal square and how to lay out an angle. It's a pretty easy process, so I'm going to get right to it. First things first, I'm going to introduce the equipment we have here, the tools. This is what's commonly referred to as a speed square or a pivotal square. I have a couple different sizes here. Usually they come in the 12-inch and then a 7-inch one. I'm going to use the 7-inch one just because it makes it easy for I'm doing my layout here on a 2x4. Okay, so I'm just going to mark an angle and then show you how we're going to read it here. There's a couple different methods. So I just laid out a random angle here on the 2x4, if you can see. And now what I want to do is check it with my framing square. So this is, or with my speed square, sorry. This is a pivotal square. So the key thing to understand is that here inside on the square, we have what's called a pivot point. So when we want to read an angle, what we're going to do is place this square up against the beginning of the angle where it starts to do its incline here. So all I'm going to do is place the pivot point up against that mark that I have. You can see fairly clearly that this is the beginning of the angle on the 2x4. And I've placed the pivot in line with that. Now, if we look on our square on the outside, on the hypotenuse of this, if we're talking about it as a triangle, we have a scale written out. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, etc., all the way to 90 degrees. The square represents a 90-degree angle, correct? So, from the pivot point to the outside of our hypotenuse of the square, we see that we can see the angle running through here, my pencil mark from this one that I'm trying to read. So what I want to read now is the increments from the bottom of the square up to where this pencil line that I have lines up with the scale. By looking at it, I can read that I'm at 25, 30, and then one more increment. Well, it's kind of a little bit past that one, but it's pretty close. So there I can read that it's 31 degrees. That's a pretty basic, easy way of reading an angle with a pivotal square. If I wanted to lay out an angle, it's basically the same process. Let's say I want to lay out a 40-degree angle. I'm going to mark a point where I want this angle to start on the 2x4. I'm going to place the pivot point on that mark, and then I'm going to go ahead and mark on the scale where I see 40 degrees. Now here's why it's called a pivotal square. Now what I'm going to do if I want to mark this angle is pivot till my mark on the 2x4 is in line with the back edge of my square, and then I'm just going to mark that. Now I have a 40-degree angle. 40 degrees. Easy. So, how would I read an angle like that with a framing square? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my framing square, or the back edge of my framing square, along that line. If you notice, the framing square has increments running on the inside, both the inside and the outside. What I want to make sure when I'm measuring or laying out an angle with a framing square is that I'm reading the numbers from either both the back edge or both the interior edges. So I'm going to place that square on the angle that I've laid out here, and I'm going to place the pivot point at 12 on the outside edge. Now I'm going to make sure that along this arris of the 2x4, I'm going to place I'm going to read what the number is that's in line with the arris. In this case, it's 10. So what I'm looking at on the framing square is that the ratio is 10:12. If I want to identify in degrees what that measurement is, I can go to anywhere where I have a common rafter conversion from foot rise or inch rise to degrees, right? In this case, I have one handy. It's labeled, stamped on the square. So I can just go and look till I find that 1012 on the inch rise or inch rise per foot, and it clearly states that it's 40 degrees. So now I know it's 40 degrees. Now that being said, if I wanted to lay out an angle with the framing square, what I could do is pick what measurement of angle I wanted in degrees. Let's say here I want 47.25, and it says 13, right? So that's my inch rise per foot. So now what I want to do is lay out one side, put one side of my square at 13 inches and the corresponding side at 12. I'm going to mark that angle. It's supposed to be 47.25 degrees. I'm going to take my speed square just to double check this. I'll place it on the pivot point. Then I'm going to take a reading. Perfect. 47.25 degrees. I can only really read it as 47 degrees just because it's not accurate enough to get a more precise measurement, but there you have it. Easy peasy. Practice makes perfect. Thank you for watching my video, and hope you learned something from it. Thank you.